Across the vast expanse of the Orion Arm, there were many powers, many empires, and many rulers who claimed dominance, but none invoked terror quite like the fierce alien queen. Her reign was not built solely on political maneuvering or fleets of starships, though she had plenty of both. It was cemented by the presence of her most dreaded companion, the war beast. Legend spoke of the beast in hushed tones. It was no ordinary predator dragged from the wild. It was a living weapon, engineered and perfected through generations of selective breeding, genetic modification, and symbiotic bonding rituals known only to the queen's lineage. Its body was an amalgam of brutal efficiency. Scales like plated armor, claws that could rend through starship hulls, a jaw that could crush a mech suit, and eyes that glowed with eerie intelligence. To her enemies, it was terror incarnate. To her soldiers, it was a symbol of invincibility. Wherever the queen went, the beast followed, stalking silently at her side or unleashed upon the battlefield like a storm of claws and fury. Armies broke at the mere sight of it. Whole colonies surrendered without firing a shot, knowing that resistance meant facing the beast's wrath. But it was not simply its destructive power that made it feared. It was a bond between the queen and her creature. They moved as one, as though tethered by thought itself. The queen needed no words, no commands. A glance, a flicker of emotion, and the beast responded. Witnesses swore they saw it anticipate her needs, shielding her before threats even appeared, striking at enemies she had not yet acknowledged. Some whispered that their connection was more than biological, that the queen had given part of her soul or bound herself with ancient rituals to create an inseparable union. The galaxy believed the beast was eternal, as unshakable as the queen's throne. Yet fate had a way of unraveling even the most unbreakable myths. The vanishing, the war beast's disappearance was not marked by the fanfare of a great battle, nor the spectacle of an assassination attempt. There was no epic confrontation, no enemy with a victory to gloat over. It simply vanished. It happened in the middle of a campaign against the Coalition of 13, a group of rival empires desperate to curb the Queen's growing dominance. The Queen's fleets had cornered them in the Perseid Drift, a region of space shrouded in plasma storms and unstable wormholes. The battle was brutal, but one-sided. The Queen's forces, as always, pushed forward with ferocity, and her beast struck terror into all who resisted. Then, amidst the chaos, something strange occurred. The battlefield sensors registered an anomaly, a surge of energy that bent space for a fraction of a second. Alarms blared across the fleet, but by the time the distortion stabilized, the war beast was gone. Not destroyed, not killed, simply gone. The Queen's wrath was immediate and terrible. Ships scoured the drift, tearing apart asteroids and burning entire outposts to ash in their search. Scouts reported nothing but debris. The enemy, though battered, was too stunned to capitalize. Whispers spread to the galaxy faster than her ships could travel. The beast, her greatest weapon, her symbol of power, had disappeared. The galaxy reacts. For her allies and subjects, the loss was unthinkable. The Queen had always been a constant, a living storm with her beast at her side. Without it, doubt began to seep into even the most loyal hearts. If the unbreakable bond between Queen and beast could fracture, what else could fail? Her enemies, meanwhile, seized upon the rumors. Some claimed they had stolen it using lost technologies, that they now held the beast in some hidden vault to study or unleash at their own command. Others whispered darker tales, that the beast had turned against her, rebelling after decades of forced servitude. Conspiracy theories flourished. But among the common folk of the galaxy, farmers on frontier worlds, miners in asteroid belts, traders moving between war zones, the story took on an almost mythical shape. They told tales of the beast seeking freedom, slipping away to live unchained. Some even joked that it might be wandering into some quiet corner of the galaxy, curling up like a stray animal at the hearth of some unsuspecting soul. No one truly believed such fantasies. The war beast was a terror beyond comprehension, and its fate would surely be one of violence, blood, or chains. And yet, the Queen's fury. In her throne world, the alien queen raged like a wounded star. Her wrath was legendary before, but now it grew into something apocalyptic. She demanded reports from every commander, executed officers for failure, and turned her spies loose across the galaxy. Entire fleets were dispatched into the void with singular purpose: find the beast. Planets were scoured, populations interrogated, and whispers chased across the stars. The Queen's enemies hoped the distraction would give them breathing room, but her fury only made her more dangerous. To her, this was not merely about reclaiming a weapon. It was personal. The war beast was not just her enforcer. It was her legacy, her companion, her proof that she was more than mortal. Without it, her image fractured. If word spread too far, if rivals grew bold enough, her empire could unravel. But what the Queen could not fathom, and what would shake the galaxy to its core, was that her beast had not been stolen by enemies, nor had it perished in the void. Instead, it had found something no one expected, something that would change its destiny and humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Far from the throne world, far from the burning battlefields of empires, on a small and quiet human colony, the war beast had found peace. Not in chains, not in blood, but in the warmth of fire, the quiet strength of a soldier turned farmer, and the simplest of gestures, curling up a human's feet. The galaxy did not yet know it, but the disappearance of Queen's beast was not the end of its legend. It was the beginning. On the outer edges of known space, humanity had carved out a fragile niche. Unlike the grand empires of the galaxy, humanity lacked massive war fleets, planet killers, or ancient genetic weapons. What they had instead was a stubborn resilience, an ability to adapt, endure, and survive where others failed. It was this quality that allowed them to thrive in forgotten corners of space, far from the attention of galactic overlords like the fierce alien Queen. One such corner was a farming colony of Astorvale, a world bathed in twin suns and covered in rolling fields of grain. It was unremarkable in every sense. No strategic value, no rare resources, no advanced technology. For most of the galaxy, Astorvale didn't even exist. But for Captain Elias Rourke, it was home, the man who walked away from war. Elias Rourke had once been a soldier. He had worn the uniform of Earth's defense fleet, fought in battles against pirate raiders and alien warlords, and bled alongside comrades who never came home. But after years of service, he left it all behind. The endless cycle of loss, the hollow victories, the futility of it all. It carved something out of him that no metal could replace. Now, Elias lived quietly. He fixed broken harvest machines, tended to crops, and bartered with neighbors in the colony's small market. His hands were still calloused. His body still carried the reflexes of a soldier, but his heart longed only for peace. He believed he had finally found it, in the rhythm of seasons and the quiet of starry nights. Until the night the storm came. The tracks in the storm. It was a violent one, unlike anything Elias had seen in years. Winds howled through the valley. Rain lashed against rooftops, and lightning split the skies in blinding flashes. Most colonists sealed themselves inside, but Elias, ever restless, couldn't sleep. He stood at his window, watching the storm, when he saw something strange. The security sensors on the edge of his farm triggered. At first, he thought it was livestock, or perhaps one of the colony's work drones knocked loose by the wind. But when he checked the feed, his blood ran cold. The screen showed massive depressions in the mud, clawed tracks larger than any local wildlife. Something was out there. Something big. Grabbing an old plasma pistol and a lantern, Elias braved the storm. The tracks led him past his fields, down into the treeline and toward the hills. The further he followed, the clearer they became. Whatever it wasn't moving quickly. Its gait was uneven, almost limping. Then he saw it, the fallen beast. At the base of a rocky ridge, partially concealed by the storm shadows, lay a massive form. Elias froze, his instincts screaming at him to retreat. The creature was unlike anything he had ever seen. Its body was scarred and armored, hide glistening under the rain like wet obsidian. Spines rose from its back, faintly glowing with bioluminescent patterns. Its chest rose and fell heavily, each breath rattling like a thunderclap. Most terrifying of all were its eyes. They snapped open as Elias approached, twin orbs burning with an unnatural light, ancient and intelligent. For a moment, soldier and beast stared at each other. Elias' hand tightened on his pistol, though he knew deep down it was useless. If the creature attacked, no weapon in his possession could save him. But the attack never came. Instead, the beast let out a low rumble, not of aggression, but of exhaustion. Its head lowered back to mud, eyes half-lidded, body trembling with weakness. Elias, still shaking, realized something astonishing. The creature wasn't hunting. It was dying, a choice against fear. Every rational thought told Elias to run, to call the colony, to raise alarms, to summon whatever defenses Astor Vale had. But something stopped him. Perhaps it was the soldier still buried beneath his quiet life, the instinct to protect even when fear gnawed at his gut. Perhaps it was a look in the creature's eyes, something not predatory, but pleading. He lowered his pistol. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped closer. The closer he came, the more details he noticed. Burns scorched across its hide, wounds still seeping faintly with ichor. The marks weren't natural. They were from weapons fire. Someone had hunted this thing, and hard. Yet despite its size, its claws, its monstrous form, it had dragged itself here alone, to collapse at his farm. "Easy," Elias muttered, his voice barely audible over the storm. He didn't know why he spoke. Perhaps to reassure himself as much as the creature. To his shock, the beast rumbled again. Softer this time. Not a threat. A response. The bond begins. That night marked the beginning of something neither man nor beast could have anticipated. Elias, against every shred of common sense, fetched water and food. He rigged makeshift shelter over the creature, shielding it from the worst of the storm. He did it wordlessly, cautiously, always aware that at any moment the beast could rise and tear him apart. But it never did. Days passed. The storm gave way to clear skies, and Elias kept returning. He tended its wounds with the limited supplies he had, bringing scraps of food from his stores. Slowly, the creature's strength began to return, and slowly, its behavior began to change. At first, it kept its distance, watching him with wary eyes. But soon, it began to follow him when he walked the fields, its massive form a silent shadow at his back. Colonists who saw it from afar panicked, but Elias calmed them, insisting it meant no harm. None believed him. The true turning point came one evening. Elias sat outside by the fire, exhaustion pulling at him after a long day's work. The beast lingered nearby, as it often did, but this time it moved closer, closer still, until, to his astonishment, it lowered itself beside him, then curled up at his feet like some oversized hound. Elias froze. His pulse hammered, yet the beast merely let out a deep, rumbling sigh and closed its eyes. It was comfortable, safe, trusting him. A laugh escaped Elias then, unsteady and disbelieving. "You've got to be kidding me," he whispered. "What the hell are you?" He didn't know the answer. Not yet. But across the galaxy, countless civilizations would have killed for what he now had. The loyalty of the fierce alien queen's war beast. And though Elias didn't yet understand the gravity of it, he felt something stir inside him. Not fear, not duty, but a bond, a connection as strange and profound as anything he had ever known. The galaxy might have seen a monster, but Elias saw something else, something lonely, something that, for reasons he couldn't comprehend, had chosen him. And as the fire crackled and the beast's breath rumbled in night, Elias realized one thing with startling clarity. His quiet life was over. The disappearance of the war beast rippled across the galaxy like a tremor from a collapsing star. But nowhere did the loss cut deeper than within the heart of its master, the fierce alien queen herself. For as long as her empire had endured, the beast had been her shadow, her executioner, her living crown of terror. Together they walked battlefields soaked in blood, silenced uprisings with a single roar, and carved their legend into the stars. The queen could lose fleets, lose planets, even lose entire campaigns, and remain unbroken. But without her beast, her throne felt strangely hollow, and the galaxy noticed the fractures of power. At first, the queen tried to conceal the truth. Official proclamations spoke of the beast undergoing rites of renewal or being deployed on secret campaigns. Propaganda artists painted murals of it laying waste to distant enemies. But the galaxy spies and rumor mongers were relentless. Soon it became impossible to hide. Rival empires whispered in council chambers. The queen is weakened. Rebellious warlords who had once trembled at her shadow began plotting anew. Even her own generals, loyal as they were, could not mask their unease. To them, the queen and the beast had always been one. Without it, was she truly untouchable? The queen answered with fury. She burned worlds suspected of harboring answers. She unleashed assassins upon her rivals, silencing their whispers in blood. She promised entire sectors would suffer if the beast was not returned. But none of it brought her closer to the truth, the endless hunt. Her hunters scoured the Perseid drift where the beast had last been seen. Armadas mapped every plasma storm. Intelligence agents interrogated refugees, and warbands tore through hidden bases. Nothing. Weeks became months. The queen's fury only grew, but so too did her desperation. Reports poured in, contradictory and maddening. Some claimed the beast had been destroyed in the battle, its body atomized by enemy weapons. Others swore it had been captured by a secret cabal, hidden away in stasis. One rumor, persistent and irritating, suggested the beast had left of its own will, abandoning its master. The queen crushed that rumor every time it surfaced, but in the depths of her private thoughts, it haunted her. Could it be true? Could the bond she believed eternal have broken? She refused to accept it. The trail into human space. At last, her spies brought fragments of data, small, but enough to ignite suspicion. Unusual energy readings at the edge of human-controlled space. Faint but unmistakable. Biosignatures that matched the beast's unique profile, though buried in noise. The queen laughed when she first read the report. Humans? Of all species in the galaxy, the weakest, the most fragile, the most irrelevant. How could they possibly harbor her beast? Humanity was tolerated, not respected. Their colonies eked out survival in unclaimed sectors, clinging to life with stubborn resilience but without true power. And yet, the data persisted. Each fragment of intelligence pointed to the same thing. The queen's laughter turned to silence, then to grim calculation. If the beast had truly drifted into human space, it would explain why she had not found it sooner. No one would think to search such insignificant worlds. And if it had bonded with them, her claws tightened around the throne's armrests. The queen's inner turmoil. The queen was not a creature given to doubt. For decades she had ruled with absolute confidence, believing herself above weakness. Yet the thought gnawed at her like acid. What if her beast had chosen another? Her people believed the beast's loyalty was eternal. They believed it was hers by divine right, the living proof of her supremacy. If it had abandoned her, if it had chosen some pitiful human instead, what would that mean? Was she less than she thought? Was humanity more than she believed? The queen would not speak these questions aloud. To her generals, to her subjects, she remained unyielding. But in the solitude of her chambers, she allowed herself one terrifying thought. If the beast could leave me, perhaps I am not as invincible as I believed. It was unacceptable, unthinkable. The queen's pride and her empire demanded answers. The hunt narrows. She dispatched a new kind of hunter, not fleets or armies, but her personal guard, assassins trained from birth to track the impossible. They move like shadows through human space, infiltrating colonies, bribing officials, sabotaging satellites. Piece by piece, the picture grew clearer. A colony world. Remote, agricultural, unremarkable, but reports trickled in. Sightings of strange tracks, frightened colonists whispering of a monstrous creature seen at the edges of farms. And one name kept surfacing, Elias Rourke, a farmer, a former soldier, a man of no consequence. And yet, according to whispers, the monster was often seen near his land. The queen's assassins dismissed it as nonsense. But when they brought her the final report, thermal scans showing a massive heat signature curled near a human dwelling, she knew. Her war beast was there, with a human. The queen's rage. The revelation shattered her composure. For hours, she tore her throne chamber apart, her screams echoing through the palace. How could this be? How could her beast, the terror of empires, the living extension of her soul, lie at the feet of a human? It was betrayal. It was treason. It was humiliation. But beneath the rage was something more dangerous: fear. The queen had always ruled through power, fear, and dominance. But this bond between the beast and the human, it was not forged by chain, by rituals, by blood. It was forged by something she could not replicate: trust, affection, choice. And if her beast could choose humanity, what else in the galaxy might? The decision. The queen gathered her fleets, but this time not for conquest. This time it was personal. She would not send soldiers to capture the beast. She would go herself, not because she doubted her army's strength, but because some part of her needed to see it, to look into the eyes of her beast and understand why it had chosen another. She would rip the truth from its throat if she had to. The galaxy braced as her ships moved toward human space, blackening the stars like a tide of iron. But for all her fury, the queen did not yet realize what awaited her. She thought she was going to reclaim her beast. She did not yet understand she was marching toward revelation. The colony of Astorvale had always been quiet. Its people worked the fields, repaired machinery, and lived lives unnoticed by the galaxy at large. But one morning, the sky itself betrayed the peace. It began as a shadow, spreading across the twin suns. Then came the rumble, low, deep, like thunder tearing to bones of the earth. Colonists looked up in terror as the heavens filled with warships. Vast and angular, bristling with weapons, they descended like gods of judgment. The queen had come. Elias Rourke knew instantly who they belonged to. The fierce alien queen, mistress of half the Orion arm, had finally found what she sought. And what she sought was sleeping just outside his home, curled like a faithful hound. The war beast. The arrival of the queen. When the flagship landed, it shook the ground. The queen herself emerged, flanked by her honor guard, a towering figure armored in living carapace, her presence alone enough to silence the crowd. Colonists shrank back, trembling, but Elias stood firm. His pulse thundered, his instinct screamed to run, but he planted his boots in the dirt. He had lived his life running, from battles, from war, from everything. Not this time. Her eyes, burning venomous, fell upon him, but more than him, they locked on the beast at his side. The creature had risen when the ships arrived, hackles raised, teeth bared, a growl vibrating through the ground. And yet, when Elias laid a calming hand against its scaled hide, the beast stilled. It remained by his side. The queen's expression shifted. First rage, then disbelief, then something Elias could only describe as sorrow. The confrontation. You. Her voice cracked the air like a whip. Human, you dare touch what is mine. Elias swallowed hard. His weapon, a battered plasma pistol, was holstered at his side. It would be useless here. His only weapon was his resolve. It came to me, Elias said, forcing his voice steady. Wounded. Dying. I helped it. It is not in it, the queen snapped, fury flashing. It is mine. My beast. My companion. My soul. Return it to me, and perhaps I will let you live. At her words, the beast moved. It stepped forward, interposing itself between Elias and the queen, its massive form blocking her advance. The growl deepened, echoing across the fields. Its meaning was unmistakable. It had chosen. The queen's guards raised weapons, but she held up a hand. Her gaze was locked on the creature, her composure cracking like glass. No, she whispered. No, you cannot. The queen's desperation. The silence between them stretched. Elias felt the weight of it, heavier than any battlefield he had stood upon. He realized then that this was not simply about reclaiming a weapon. For the queen, this was about identity, about pride, about her very belief in her own power. Her voice shook, not with weakness, but with something raw. I raised you. I bled with you. You are mine. She extended her hand, her claws gleaming in the sunlight. Come back. The beast's eyes, luminous and sharp, flicked between her and Elias. For a moment, Elias thought it might obey, that the bond she claimed would pull it back to her side. But then the creature lowered itself, pressing closer to Elias, curling slightly at his feet like it had done so many nights before. The decision was final. The queen staggered as though struck. To her, the rejection was unthinkable. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The breaking point. Her guards looked to her for orders. A single command, and the colony would be ash, Elias burned to dust, and perhaps even the beast destroyed in the chaos. The Queen's pride screamed at her to do it, to reassert her dominance, to prove that nothing could defy her. And yet she did not, because she understood something terrible. If she tried to take the beast by force, she would lose it forever. The bond it had with the human was not one of command or fear. It was trust. Trust cannot be commanded. It can only be given. And the beast had given it to someone else. Her fury melted into something rarer, something none of her soldiers had ever seen in her before: grief. "You," she whispered, not to Elias, not even to the beast, but to herself. "You were never mine. Not truly." The unspoken message. The standoff ended not with violence, but with silence. The Queen lowered her hand. Slowly, deliberately, she turned from Elias and the beast. To her soldiers, she barked a single order: "We leave." Confusion rippled through them, but none dare question. One by one they withdrew, returning to their ships. Within minutes, the fleet lifted, darkening the skies once more before vanishing into the void. The colony exhaled as if waking from a nightmare. Elias, still standing, felt the adrenaline drain from his body. The beast nudged his hand with its massive head, a gesture so strangely gentle it nearly made him laugh. The Queen was gone, but she had left more than silence behind. She had left a message unspoken but undeniable. The galaxy would soon hear this. The war beast, symbol of domination, had abandoned its queen for a human. Humanity, once dismissed as weak and fragile, now stood at the center of a story that would shake empires. The new beginning. That night, Elias sat by his fire once again. The beast curled at his feet. He stared into the flames, thoughts heavy in his mind. He had not asked for this. He had not sought it. Yet here he was, guardian of a creature that had once brought whole worlds to their knees. What happens now? Elias murmured, more to himself than to the beast. The creature let out a low rumble, pressing closer, as if to say, "Now, we face whatever comes. Together." Elias chuckled softly. "Yeah, together." Across the stars, empires would scheme, rulers would rage, and the Queen herself would brood upon a throne, plotting her next move. But none could undo what had happened here. The fiercest war beast in the galaxy had made its choice. And in that choice, humanity had been elevated. No longer forgotten species, clinging to survival. No longer underestimated. Now, they were the people whose compassion had tamed the untamable. In the years to come, stories would spread, songs would be sung, and when the galaxy spoke of the day the beast curled at a human's feet, they would speak of it not as an end, but as the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's destiny. For in the quiet of a small farm on a forgotten world, the galaxy's balance had shifted, and humanity, fragile, stubborn, underestimated humanity, was no longer a footnote in galactic history. They had become its future.